this day will be the last, and tomorrow we all can go home free, and all this will finally end. Palestine, tomorrow will be free. Palestine, tomorrow will be free. Mother, no father to wipe away my tears. That's why I will cry. I feel scared, but I won't show my fears. I keep my head high, deep in my heart. I never have any doubt that it's fine. Tomorrow will be free. Palestine, tomorrow will be free. I saw those rockets and bombs shining in the sky, like drops of rain in the sun's light, taking away everyone into my heart, destroying my dreams in the blink of an eye. What happened to our home and our rights? What happened to the sanctity of life and all those other lives? They're falling short, but is it 'cause she's still alive?
Sayın Bakanlarım, saygıdeğer konuklar ve değerli katılımcılar, İbn Haldun Üniversitesi tarafından düzenlenen Filistin ve Küresel İlişkilerin Geleceği konulu Filistin Sempozyumuna hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Ben Nisa Efendioğlu, konferansın açılış töreninde sizlerle birlikte olacağım. Değerli katılımcılar, sizler de takdir edersiniz ki bu sempozyum küresel çapta büyük bir öneme sahiptir. Bugün Gazze'de dünyanın gözü önünde insanlık dışı ve kabul edilemez bir vahşet yaşanıyor. Gazze'de bugün ölü sayısı 30 binin üzerinde ve bunların 2/3'ünü kadınlar ve çocuklar oluşturuyor. Bugün Gazze'de neredeyse her evde cenazeler var. Bunların yanı sıra şu an Gazze nüfusu açlıkla karşı karşıya. Aynı zamanda İsrail gerçekleri dünyaya duyurmaya çalışan gazetecileri de hedef almakta. 7 Ekim'den bu yana 130 gazeteci İsrail saldırıları sonucu şehit oldu. Bizim bu sempozyumu yaptığımız dakikalarda bile onlarca insan, kadın, genç ve çocuk Filistinli İsrail tarafından vahşice katlediliyor. Gazze'deki bu tablo vicdan sahibi herkesin yüreğini sızlatıyor. Filistin'de yaşanan bu insanlık suçuna karşı küresel dayanışmanın önemli aktörlerinin 2 gün boyunca burada bir araya gelmesi bakımından sempozyumumuz küresel bir öneme sahip. Sempozyumumuza dünyanın dört bir yanından ve ülkemizden alanında önde gelen akademisyenler, araştırmacılar, gazeteciler ve sivil toplum kuruluşu temsilcileri katkı sunacaklar. Katılımcılarımıza şimdiden şükranlarımızı sunuyoruz. Sempozyumun geçmişe dair derinlemesine bir anlayış sağlarken geleceğe yönelik yeni perspektifler sunmasını umuyoruz. Açılış törenimiz Kur'an-ı Kerim tilavetiyle başlayacak ve selamlama konuşmalarıyla devam edecek. Kur'an-ı Kerim tilaveti için Ataköy 5. Kısım Ömer Doruk Camii Baş İmam Hatibi, Kur'an okuma dünya birincisi, Kurra Hafız Mustafa Kızılcıoğlu'nu sahneye davet ediyorum. Buyurunuz hocam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما لكم لا تقاتلون في سبيل الله والمستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها واجعل لنا من لدنك وليا واجعل لنا من لدنك وليا واجعل لنا من لدنك نصيرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله الكذب وهو يدعى إلى الإسلام والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون صدق الله العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا تقبل منا واشف مرضانا وارحم شهداءنا وعاف أحياءنا وتقبل دعاءنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا بحرمة الفاتحة
Hocamıza teşekkür ediyoruz. Şimdi selamlama konuşmalarına geçiyoruz değerli katılımcılar. İlk olarak Sempozyum Akademik Kurulu adına İbn Haldun Üniversitesi öğretim üyesi Doktor Faruk Yaslıçmen'i kürsüye davet ediyorum. Buyurun hocam.
Assalamu alaikum, and a warm welcome to the distinguished guests, scholars, activists, journalists, and participants gathered here today for the International Symposium on Palestine, organized by Ibn Khaldun University. I stand before you, this is going to be a short welcoming talk. I stand before you here on behalf of the organization committee, which consists, I want to call them one by one. İrfan Ahmet, Ramazan Aras, Alev Erkilet, Bahdettin Işık, Teslim Hrici, Ahmet Yusuf Özdemir, Afra Uysal, Bilal Selam, Dalal Salem, and this poor servant. This symposium is more than a gathering of minds. It's a platform for solidarity and for understanding the future of an issue that will have a profound global impact. I mean the situation in Gaza. Here in the subtitle on the poster, you will see the emphasis on future. That is very important. That's not a random decision that we made. We don't want to talk about what is happening, what is going on the ground today, but we want to understand how the future will unfold. The members of this organizing committee, while preparing the symposium, unanimously agreed on one thing, that the October 7th is not a coincidental moment in the history of the struggle, that it will serve as a turning point for the future of the struggle. We are here to understand how this is going to happen. The symposium is bringing together before you experts, activists, journalists, and scholars from various corners of the world. This diversity mirrors the international concern and commitment to the cause, which I won't say the Palestinian cause, but I will simply put it as the cause. By this gathering, we hope to amplify the voices of those who seek justice and peace, and amplify the voices of those who are hurt by the peoples, but turned a deaf ear by Western governments, which we call the co-culprits of the genocidal crimes in Gaza. I would like to express our gratitude to all those who have contributed to the organization of the symposium, and a special thanks to our esteemed speakers and participants. You have taken out from your work to come here for justice, dignity, and humanity. We are grateful to you. In total, we will have 6 panels over 2 days on the violation of academic freedoms, critical perspectives on apartheid, daily resistance to systematic annihilation in Palestine, social legal perspectives on the genocide in Gaza, the extent and future of global solidarity, and lastly, media representations of the Gaza war. Together, let us strive for a future where peace and justice prevail in Palestine and beyond. Welcome to the International Symposium on Palestine. Shukran and thank you.
Hocamıza teşekkür ediyoruz. Şimdi de İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Rektörümüz Profesör Doktor Atilla Arkan'ı selamlama konuşmaları için kürsüye davet ediyorum. Buyurun hocam.
Sayın Bakanım, Sayın Mütevelli Heyeti Başkanımız ve Başkan Vekilimiz, değerli rektör hocalarımız, değerli Mütevelli Heyeti Başkanlarımız, dünyanın farklı coğrafyalarından gelen kıymetli misafirlerimiz ve değerli katılımcılarımız, İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Uluslararası Filistin Sempozyumu'na hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Hepimizin bildiği gibi 20. yüzyılda Orta Doğu'da dünyanın iki temel meselesi vardı ve bunlar maalesef kan akmasının en iki önemli sebebiydi. Birisi petrol, diğeri Filistin meselesi. Özellikle Filistin konusu kalbimizde yarayan, akan bir kan. İsrail Devleti Orta Doğu'nun bağrına sanki saplanan bir bıçak. Ve bıçak en fazla Filistinli kardeşlerimizin kanını akıttı. 10 yıllardır devam eden işgal ve katliamlar artık bir soykırım. Selahaddin Eyyubi'nin Kudüs'ü fethetmesinden sonra bölgede yaşayan huzur, Osmanlı Devleti'nin hakimiyeti altında da uzun yıllar devam etti. Ancak bu durum Osmanlı Devleti'nin güç kaybetmesiyle beraber 1800'lü yıllardan itibaren değişmeye başladı. İngiltere ve Fransa'da kurulan Siyonist cemiyetlerle Filistin bir Yahudi ülkesi yapma ideali belirdi. Theodor Herzl'in devreye girmesiyle ve yayınladığı Yahudi Devleti kitabından sonra da faaliyetler hız kazandı. Osmanlı Devleti'nin duruşu sayesinde kurulamayan İsrail ne yazık ki onun güç kaybetmesinden sonra 1948 yılında İsrail Devleti kuruldu. Yıllar içerisinde Filistin'in İsrailli yerleşimciler tarafından parça parça işgal edildiğini görüyoruz. Medyada gösterilen haritalar bu acı gerçeği bize açıklıkla gösteriyor. Miracın şahidi, medeniyetler şehri, ilmin, barışın, coşkunun merkezi Kudüs uzun yıllardır İsrail zulmü altında inliyor. Vatanlarına sahip çıkmaya çalışanları, masumları, kadınları, yaşlıları, çocukları ve hatta bebekleri İsrail defalarca katletti. Ve bu katliam artık bir soykırıma dönüştü. Gazze, insanlık tarihinin en acımasız katliamlarında karşı karşıya. 7 Ekim'den bu yana yaşananları vicdan sahibi hiçbir insanın kabullenmesi mümkün değil. Gıda yardım malzemesi, hatta ilaç geçişini dahi kesmiş durumda. Bu kesintiler sebebiyle yaralılar tedavi olamıyor, bombardımandan kurtulan bebekler hayatlarını kaybediyor. Bugüne kadar açık hava hapishanesinde durumunda bulunan Gazze artık toplu bir mezarlığa doğru dönüştürmek istiyor İsrail. Ayrıca İsrail 7 Ekim'den bu yana Gazze'deki 11 üniversitenin tamamını da bombalamış durumda. Verilere göre saldırılar sonucunda 90 bin üniversite öğrencisi eğitimini yarıda bırakmak zorunda kaldı. Şu ana kadar 231 öğretmen ve akademisyen ve 4237 öğrenci hayatını kaybetti ve şehit oldular. Yani İsrail, Gazze'de Filistinlerin eğitim sistemini de sistematik bir şekilde yok ediyor. Dünya tüm bu yaşananlara kayıtsız kalmadı ve kalmıyor. Farklı ülkelerde her gün onlarca gösteri düzenleniyor. Gazze, dünyanın vicdanı oldu. Burada biz akademisyenlere önemli görevler düşüyor. Sempozyumumuzun başlangıcında olduğu gibi dünyanın geleceğini, Gazze'nin geleceğini de detaylı bir şekilde düşünmek zorundayız. Bu sempozyum arkadaşlarımızın destekleriyle beraber bunun için yapıldı ve yapılmaya devam ediyor. İsrail yönetimi ve desteksiz batılı siyasiler tepkilerini kulaklarını kapatmış olsa da biz buradan Filistinlerin ve Filistin'in haklı davasının yanında olduğumuzu gösteriyoruz. Filistin ve küresel ilişkilerin geleceği temasıyla düzenlediğimiz sempozyumda Filistin'in anlaşılmasında temel fikirler, metodolojiler, dil ve teorilere uzantılarak derinlemesine diyalog, araştırma ve politika etkilerinin keşfi için dinamik bir akademik platform oluşturmaya çalışıyoruz. Sempozyum, akademisyenler, aktivistler, araştırmacılar ve medya profesyonellerini Filistin özelinde birlikte düşünmeye, üretmeye ve Filistin'in geleceğini hep beraber inşa etmeye davet ediyoruz. Umarım bu noktada faydalı bir sempozyum olur. Emeği geçenlere teşekkür ediyorum. Hepinize bir kez daha hoş geldiniz diyorum. Ehlen ve selam.
İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Rektörümüz Profesör Doktor Atilla Arkan hocamıza konuşmaları için teşekkür ediyoruz. Değerli katılımcılar, şimdi de selamlama konuşmalarını yapmak üzere İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Mütevelli Heyeti Başkan Vekili Necmettin Bilal Erdoğan'ı kürsüye davet ediyorum. Buyurunuz efendim.
Selamünaleyküm. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Çok değerli misafirler, dear guests, hepinizi bu önemli buluşmada sevgiyle, saygıyla bu güzel cuma sabahında selamlıyorum. Allah'ın selamı üzerinize olsun. Tabii Sayın Hocam başlangıçta artık ne olduğundan değil, ne olacağından biraz daha fazla gelecekten bahsetmek istiyoruz dedi. Bu gerçekten bir üniversitenin yapacağı bu tür bir etkinlik için oldukça isabetli. Bütün emeği geçen akademisyen hocalarımıza, üniversite yönetimimize, birimlerimize, katılan misafir, akademisyen, aktivist, gazeteci hepsine çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. Son kısımda misafirlerimizin de anlaması için İngilizce olarak devam edeceğim. Recently I was in Cape Town, South Africa, where the apartheid regime was in power for more than 50 years, and if some of the high school students among us would like to know more about what apartheid is, I suggest them to search it on the web, obviously. And when they come up to the definition of apartheid, they will question whether the regime in Israel now is an apartheid regime or not, and they will see it is. When you look at the word Nazism and try to understand the definition and what it is, and the same goes for Nazism, you'll find that the regime in Israel is very obvious Nazist regime. You read the definition of Nazism, you change the name of Germany with Israel, and you see that it's a Nazist regime, obviously. If you try to understand fascism, let's say a student of political science wants to study fascism, they'll see that the regime in Israel is a fascist regime. It is a genocidal regime by now. The international court set up by the Western institutions affirms that. And beyond those, it's also a fundamentalist regime. The whole talk about democracy, the whole talk about human rights goes to the waste bin when it comes to the religious zealots that live in Israel that rule the current regime over there. And obviously, the world is at a loss. The totality of the humanity's consciousness is really at a loss. And what needs to happen from now on is the humanity will have to face the consequences for the whole international system. If the rule-based international system is no longer due to what Israel has been able to do and is doing, then more chaos awaits the world. More wars and massacres awaits the world in various different areas of tension. That is why the consciousness has to rise, and as Muslims living in Turkey and around the region, we need to unite around the cause of Palestine, because this is a cause of humanity Thank you very much again. Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullah.
İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Mütevelli Heyeti Başkan Vekili Necmettin Bilal Erdoğan'a konuşmaları için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Şimdi de selamlama konuşmalarını yapmak üzere İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Mütevelli Heyeti Başkanı Profesör Doktor İrfan Gündüz'ü kürsüye davet ediyorum. Buyurunuz hocam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Vessalatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ve etba'ihi ecmain. Sayın bakanlarım, değerli rektör hocalarımız, akademisyenlerimiz, gazetecilerimiz, bu güzel sempozyuma katılmak üzere buraya kadar gelen aziz gençler, genç yavrularımız. Esasında bu sempozyum bir feryadın, bir çığlığın dünyaya ilan edilmesi manasında düzenlenmiştir. Gazze'de gerçekten katliam, vahşet yaşanıyor ve orada devlet denilen aslında bir terörist grup. Oradaki bakın elektriği kesmiş, küvezde çürüyen yavrular, her türlü yardımı kesmiş. Kestikleri için açlıktan sokakta yalın ayak yürüyen çocuklar. Fosfor bombaları altında yaralanan gazilerin, yaralıların, narkoz olmadığı için, ilaçlar yok edildiği için canlı canlı tedavileri yapılan o yaralılar, gaziler. Daha ne diyeyim? Bombalarla yıkılan evlerinin altından çoluğunu, çocuğunun cenazesini elleriyle çıkarmaya çalışan babalar. Bunların yüreğini, acısını yüreğimizde duymak için, onların çığlığını akademik dünyada, bu sesin, bu çığlığın duyulmasını temin etmek üzere bu sempozyumu düzenledik. Peygamberimiz Efendimiz, güneşin doğduğu yerde bir Müslümanın, ayağına batan dikenin acısını, güneşin battığı yerdeki bir Müslüman can evinde duymazsa bizden değildir. Biz empati yaparak kendimizi Gazze'lilerin yerine koyuyoruz. Vatansız bırakılan, evsiz bırakılan, ilaçsız bırakılan ve yurtlarından kovulmaya çalışılan Gazze, bütün dünyayı örnek yiğit de bir direniş sergiliyor. Hiç olmazsa onların bu direnişlerine moral gücü vermek üzere buradayız. Üstad Necip Fazıl rahmetli, bakın bundan yıllarca önce, yıkılasın İsrail, enkazını göreyim, sana devlet diyenin suratına tüküreyim diyor, yüzüne tüküreyim. Bugün dünya, hür dünya bize adalet, demokrasi, eşitlik vaat ederek yaklaşarak iliğimizi kemirmeye çalışan, sömürmeye çalışan hür dünyanın görmeyen gözü, duymayan kulağı ve bu zulme karşı sağır ve dilsiz konumunu tüm dünyaya, özellikle akademik dünyaya duyurmak üzere buradayız. Bu davetimize icabet ederek buraya gelen yurt dışından ve yurt içinden çok değerli araştırmacılar, aktivistler, gazeteciler, içeriden akademisyenler, Filistin uzmanları inşallah Filistin'in sadece dününü değil, bugününü de yarınını da ortaya koyarak çok ciddi tebliğler sunacaklar. Ben önce sizlere katılarak bu sempozyumumuza güç verdiğiniz için yürekten teşekkür ediyorum. Ve katılımcılara da başarılar diliyor. Hepinize en kalbi selam ve saygılarımı sunuyorum.
Evet, İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Mütevelli Heyeti Başkanı Profesör Doktor İrfan Gündüz'e konuşmaları için çok teşekkür ediyoruz ve sempozyumumuzun açılış oturumuna geçiyoruz değerli katılımcılar. Açılış konuşmaları İbn Haldun Üniversitesi öğretim üyesi Doktor Ahmet Yusuf Özdemir'in moderatörlüğünde İngiltere Filistin Büyükelçisi Sayın Husam Zomlot ve 10 yıllardır Filistin'de yaşanan drama yakından tanık olan Kuzey Norveç Üniversitesi Hastanesi'nden Sayın Doktor Matt Gilbert tarafından gerçekleştirilecektir. İlk olarak Doktor Matt Gilbert hocamızı sahneye davet ediyorum ve Ahmet hocamızı sahneye davet ediyorum. Buyurun hocam.
Distinguished guests, today Palestine has become a turning point for international public opinion. We are faced with a stark reality that leaves us no choice but to clearly state our position. Palestine has witnessed every form of oppression for the last 75 years. Ask yourself a simple question. What comes to your mind when you hear Palestinian struggle? A child throwing stones at the Israeli army in the first Intifada, or take the case of Mohammed Durra, killed in the arms of his father. Rachel Corrie killed under the bulldozers of the occupation. The recording released by the Red Crescent, Palestinian Red Crescent Society, just a couple of weeks ago by six-year-old Hind Rajab calling for help, waiting for her death, as the Israeli tanks nearing his still in my ears when I do my talk. From children attempting to resist by throwing stones at the tanks, to older women killed while waving white flags, every form of struggle for humane and decent existence has been staged in Palestine. At this point, we see the most systemic genocide taking place in Gaza. We are now here today calling for a new world order. A new world order must be established. The walls of fear has fallen. Now, we are reclaiming global confidence with the Palestinian resistance. With these thoughts in mind, more than 30 speakers, many from abroad, came together today to underline this reality. Ladies and gentlemen, without taking too much of your time, I would like to introduce our first keynote speaker, Dr. Matt Gilbert. Actually, when the head of the organizing committee, Ramazan Aras, was asking me to deliver this speech of moderating this event, this talk, I was a little bit nervous and excited, to be honest, because I was reading Matt Gilbert's book when I was in my bachelor's degree in 2008, 2009. I'm sure most of you would know the tears of Gaza. And I'm really happy to be here and also really welcome to Dr. Matt Gilbert. For a brief introduction for his biography, he's a Norwegian physician, humanitarian activist. He's a specialist on anesthesiology, head of emergency medicine department at the University Hospital of North Norway, and professor of emergency medicine. Since the 1970s, he has been actively involved with solidarity work concerning Palestinians and has served as doctor for several periods in the Palestinian territories and Lebanon. Dr. Matt Gilbert, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning. And Professor Ahmed and the organizing committee, thank you so much for inviting me and for getting all these important people together. I'm sorry for my Arabic, شوي عربية, but بكرة في المشمش, it's not very good, so I will not speak Arabic today, but I hope that the lovely translators will be able to translate my talk. And I start with this picture. Can you take the light off me now, please? This picture, which says in Arabic, Kuluna Gaza, and I guess you all know that it means we are all Gaza. And I totally agree with Professor Ahmed that what is going on in Gaza and the West Bank, it is not only a question of standing by the Palestinian people, it is not a Muslim cause, it's not a religious cause, it is actually a struggle that affects all of us. Because if this world is going to continue along the lines of Israeli impunity, and is an Israeli impunity supported by the United States and being allowed to kill as many as they want to kill without any consequences, who will be next? And what will the world look like for our children and our grandchildren? So Kuluna Gaza, it's actually my t-shirt, and this describes pretty much what I'm going to talk about. And this, of course, is one of the 184 mosques that the Israeli occupation army has destroyed in Gaza. In addition, 3 churches. So it's close to 800 houses of worship of God that has been bombed in this way by the Israeli occupation forces. It is not only a crime against the people of Gaza and the people of Palestine, it is an attack on every one of us. So Kuluna Gaza, we're here today not only to talk and discuss, but more so find out what can we do for the future for Palestine, and what can we all do to try to make the world a little bit better. Very nice slide, thank you. So this important symposium here in Istanbul will shed light, and I start with these 2 pictures because I don't want to portray the Palestinian people as weak and suffering. Yes, indeed, there is suffering, and yes, there is a lot of killing and wounding and thirst and hunger, but most of all, the Palestinian people are standing tall in their resistance against colonialism, occupation, and apartheid. And we should salute the Palestinian people for their bravery and the struggle that they fight on behalf of all of us. I don't support Hamas, I don't support Fatah or Jihad or PFLP. Along with the Norwegian Solidarity Movement, I support the Palestinian people and their right to resist occupation also with arms, because that is anchored in the international law. So I support the armed resistance, of course, within the framework of international law and the Geneva Convention, but I think we have to look at the strength and the power of the Palestinian people, and also to stand tall in our solidarity work, because never before has there been so much international solidarity for the anti-imperial, anti-colonial struggle as we see these days. We have to go back to the Vietnam War to see such an international deluge, a massive river of solidarity in every country, in every continent of the world. We will be part of that, and we will pledge to stand by the Palestinians. What you see here is not an earthquake like the horrible earthquake that your country, your nation suffered. This is 100% man-made disaster, made by the state and the government of Israel, executed by the Israeli occupation forces with the full support of the US, and I'm sad to say, with the support of many European governments. This has no military meaning. This is the politics of elimination. This is the colonial politics of stealing land and killing people who own the land. This is, in 2024, the politics of genocide, as we see it unfolding every day. And the losses have been massive. I'm not going to go in very great detail, but we have to discuss a little bit about the evidence and the numbers and the facts on the ground. It's not enough for us as academics only to make a political stance. That's important. It's important to be activists. I'm an activist and I'm proud to be an activist. But I also have to be scientific about my arguments when I talk about the consequences of Israeli colonialism in Gaza and in the West Bank. But first of all, let me say that I dedicate this lecture to my brave brothers and sisters in Gaza, my fellow healthcare workers, the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics, the medical students, the nursing students, and all the volunteers. And I salute their bravery for never giving in, never surrendering, never leaving their patients, their health clinic, or their hospital. And I think that the Palestinian healthcare workers are the moral compasses for this world now. And I suggest that we give them a big hand because they are the real heroes. They are the real heroes. These two brothers from the attack in 2014, which happened during Ramadan, I worked in Shifa then. We were all extremely exhausted. I learned so much from my sisters and brothers in Gaza. And that's been my most important teaching institution. That has been to work as a medical doctor in Gaza. Not only during the bombing, I'm in Gaza 1 to 3 times a year. I teach, I do research together with my fellow Palestinian academics. We do projects and we try to together work to develop Palestinian healthcare. And every time it has reached a certain level, there is new bombing. This is a horrible picture of man-made destruction. These are 1,000 kilo bombs dropped without guiding from Israeli warplanes supplied by the United States of America. This has been one of the worst, if not the worst, destructive war of our time. And the massive destruction, the losses, will be staining our history for generations to come. And the war is not only on Gaza, as I will talk about a little bit later. The attacks on the West Bank are also intensified, and they are extremely brutal, directed at the villages, at the cities, and at the refugee camps, and in particular at young people. And I think Professor Ahmed posed it very nicely when he said that today we are witnessing the collapse of the Israeli paradigm that has overshadowed the world's public opinion for decades like fog. A new world order must be established. I totally agree. A rebellion against the system installed under the shadow of the atomic bomb in the previous century in the name of order is the struggle for the liberation of Palestine. And everyone should continue their efforts for a free Palestine as best as they can. And I want you to make a pledge today not to forget, not to give up, not to stop talking about Palestine and Gaza when the ceasefire is coming. Because there will be a need for tens of years of support, of solidarity and reconstruction, and more struggle to end the occupation of Palestine. Because this is not a difficult conflict. This is, and has always been, since '48, a difficult occupation, a difficult loss of land forced upon the Palestinians by the world order. And Gaza is struggling. This iconic picture is a brave man from Zaytun. His name is Aid Abu Amro. This is from the Great March of Return, when the Palestinian people, all together in Gaza, tried to use civilian resistance, unarmed resistance, to get out of the siege, out of the ghetto that they have been in for 16 years. They tried everything. Every Friday they go to the fence, and they were killed by the hundreds and wounded by the thousands. We have studied that, and there is no doubt that the Israelis were shooting at elbows, at hands, knees, and ankles in order not just to kill, but make as many handicapped as possible, in order to tell them that if you resist the occupation and the colonial powers, we will maim you for life. But Gaza exists, Palestine exists, Gaza's people are fighting for their life as we are sitting here comfortably in Istanbul, and they need more solidarity, and you need to do more to support this brave struggle of David against Goliath. And don't forget, solidarity is not an act of charity. It is an act of unity between people who are fighting on different grounds towards the same goals: justice, equality, love, solidarity, and no racism. This was said by Samora Machel, the first president in the Free Mozambique Republic. He was a fighter, a guerrilla fighter, and he coined this important phrase that solidarity is not an act of charity. And here are my sum-up points, my urgent prescription for the situation now. Number one, immediate ceasefire. Number two, immediately open Gaza, unrestricted influx of relief, of food, of water, of medical teams, of medical supplies, not controlled by Israel, but controlled by the international community. Reopen, repair, and rebuild Gaza's healthcare under Palestinian leadership. Don't make Gaza another Afghanistan with an NGO-driven society. Palestinians should be in charge, and we should respect their leadership at all times, at all levels. Stop the avoidable death, because now people are dying in the hundreds and in the thousands because they don't have what you have on your table. They don't have water, they don't have food, they don't have electricity, they don't have shelter, they don't have warm clothes. Very simple provisions to maintain health are they denied through the siege and the blockade. So we need to stop this avoidable death immediately. And most of all, maybe stop the children's avoidable death, because now children are dying from starvation, from infections, from diarrhea, and from lack of shelter. All of this can be changed in one day if we have ceasefire and open Gaza. How come it has not happened yet? How come that the US and Israel, as the only two countries in the world really not going for ceasefire, have been able to continue? We need a new world order, I totally agree. Stop defunding UNRWA, the false accusations, and of course, end the occupation and work together for a free Palestine. That's my prescription as a doctor. And the most challenging political problem in the world, in my opinion, has been the Israeli impunity. They have been doing attacks, expansions, colonizations, killings, apartheid for the better part of 70 years, without ever to have been held accountable in the international court, in the ICJ, as they are now, finally, or in other international instruments of punishment if you break the international rules. But most of all, they have been allowed to exercise an empire in Palestine, occupied Palestine, which is void of human dignity, void of respect, and void of the types of freedom that we take for granted. And Nelson Mandela said it very clearly. He said, our freedom is not complete until the Palestinians have their freedom. And he visited Palestine and Gaza. And he said that apartheid in Israel was much worse than apartheid that they conquered in South Africa. So what was more natural than it was Republic of South Africa who took Israel to the International Criminal Court. And I think South Africa deserves a big applause for having done this for all of us, really. Norway should have done it. We were responsible to arrange this horrible Oslo Treaty. Turkey could have done it. Jordan could have done it. Anybody could have done it, but they did it. And without their bravery and without the solidarity movement in South Africa, it would not have happened. So not one single of the Western governments have supported the case by Republic of South Africa. Also not the Norwegian government, but there are about 40 governments, all from the global south, who have supported the case. And we were all watching when the judge from the US read the first verdict and concluded that they would open investigation on Israel if they are actually responsible or perpetrating genocide in Gaza. The response outside the court was mixed. The Palestinians, like this young Palestinian woman, she says, it's like the minimum of the minimum that we could have. And she also said, it's not enough. And she said, it is the minimum of the minimum that we now have. And in Gaza, the disappointment was very, very palpable. People were extremely frustrated and angry that the conclusion of the first proceedings did not force Israel to immediately establish a ceasefire. But the case is going on, and now there is a second case, which also would not have been taken on unless the solidarity movement had been so strong all over the world. This second case is whether or not Israel, during its occupation of the West Bank and its colonization of the West Bank with the colonies and the occupiers, called the settlements and the settlers, are also breaching the international law. And in that cause, many nations are speaking. And this is from The Guardian the other day, where the Palestinian prime minister in the PA government used the words colonialism and apartheid. This was a speech yesterday in one of the UN committees by Tarbush Nada, a very powerful speech. And this was a speech in a meeting about disarmament to reduce the number of weapons in the world. And she said, what is the purpose of continuing to send arms to Israel? Is it apathy, indifference, a head in the sand, continuation of business as usual? Or is it profits? The desire to make more profit, no matter the cost, legal, moral, reputational? Or is it ideology? From a racist logic whereby different values are placed on different lives. We have a name for that. It's called racism. People of the global south or of a certain skin color or nationality are seen as more disposable, less deserving of life, of empathy, outrage, or respect for the law. There is no diplomatic way of calling out racism. It's time to call a spade a spade. So I wonder, is there a new language coming now in the international arena? A new language containing the words that we have been using for many years without being heard. And this important speech by the Chinese representative in the Security Council in the UN, the foreign minister of China's legal advisor, he said that Israel is a colonizer and that the Palestinians have the right to resist under international law, including armed struggle, which is, in this context, distinguished from acts of terrorism. So China, one of the most important superpowers, who have known their part of colonialism, says, don't call what's going on in Palestine terrorism. It is a legal armed struggle. And this is incredibly important changes in the vocabulary on the international scene. Finally, we're talking about colonialism, apartheid, racism, and I add sadism. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But why does it come now? Because we've known this for so long time. We've known it for centuries almost, for decades. In 1946, Mahatma Gandhi, the famous rebellion from India, said, "Why should Jews depend upon American money or British arms for forcing themselves into an unwelcome land? Why should they use terrorism to make good of their forced landing in Palestine? So why should they use terrorism, weapons and arms and military power to establish themselves in a land where they are not wanted?" And we all remember the pictures from the Nakba, this from a refugee camp in Syria, a known photographer. And now Nakba looks like this. Not with 450, 500, 600,000, as in 48, but with 1.2 million people being forced by the military bulldozers and at the point of the gun and the tanks and the bombs to be squeezed together in Rafah like animals. And indeed, that's what the Israelis are calling them, like the Minister of Defense, Mr. Gallant, who called the Palestinians in Gaza animals in October last year. So this is what it looks like when you force people together in the millions in a very small space. And now the mainstream media are talking about, oh, there could be a bloodbath if Israeli makes a ground invasion into this massive amount of defenseless, unarmed civilian people. That's not true. There's been a bloodbath for 4 months. And I'll show you the numbers. This is part of the Israeli politics of elimination and part of the sadism. So the Israeli siege of Gaza, all the bombings, 2006, 9, 12, 14, 21, and now 2023, 24, has put the Palestinian health in a very difficult place. So public health in Gaza has been severely affected by the living conditions caused by the occupation and also in the West Bank. And Martin Luther King, he said that of all types of injustice, the injustice in healthcare and the access to healthcare is the most shocking and inhuman. Because we all consider healthcare, hospitals, primary healthcare clinics, ambulances, as part of a good society, where we can go when somebody in the family is sick, when some accident happens, whenever. It's open, it's light, it's warm, it's good people in there, doctors, nurses, whatever. And it is like a temple of mercy, a temple of compassion, a temple of care in a society. So why are the Israelis all the time attacking healthcare? And this is not new. This is a piece from the Lancet. Those of you who are medical people, you know the Lancet, the most prestigious medical journal in the world. This is from 2002, and it is a piece describing the dire situation in healthcare in the occupied Palestinian territory. And this is a quote from my previous prime minister, Mrs. Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the head of WHO at that time. She was asked by the WHO General Assembly to go to Gaza and the West Bank to study the health situation, but Israelis just didn't allow WHO to come. So this is 22 years ago. This is a brilliant paper by Professor Rita Gyakman, Palestinian professor at Birzeit University, close to Ramallah. And she writes a paper where she says, hope for improving the health and quality of life of Palestinians will exist only once people recognize that the structural and political conditions that they endure in the occupied Palestinian territory are the key determinants of population health, unquote. You cannot have public health, good living conditions, longevity, reduced disease, if you do not treat the root cause, which is the occupation, the racism, the apartheid, and the violence perpetrated against the Palestinian people. You cannot be a doctor and only use your stethoscope. You have to make a political analysis and choose side with the oppressed if we are going to see better conditions for the people of Palestine. Moving forward, 2012, as I said, we've known for some long time. This is a paper published in the European Journal of Public Health in 2012 that concludes, we found that the main reported cause of suffering of Gazans is the Israeli imposed siege, followed by the effects of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. So living conditions under the siege continues to be the major cause of suffering for Gazans, and it prevents crucial needs from being fulfilled. So if you're an academic and you like really to read the studies, and we should do that, there is a whole wealth of academic studies pointing to proving the same. Living conditions under occupation are the main problem for public health in Palestine. 2018, new report, the impact of the collective punishment, the siege, has been extreme economic decline, the development of a wholly preventable, human-made humanitarian disaster in the Gaza Strip. And can you take down a little? And I filmed this on one of my many travels. I'm driving the taxi from Erez down to Gaza City. And here you have the numbers. Almost half of the people were without job. 6 out of 10 young people without job. 6 out of 10 families needing food support. Only 11 hours of electricity per day. Almost 80% of the water unfit for drinking. And 1/3 of the patients needing treatment outside Gaza are denied it because they're not allowed to travel. 2 cancer patients die every day in Gaza because of lack of treatment. And of course, what you see on this little video does no longer exist. This landscape looks like a desert. This landscape is completely flattened by the Israeli army through bombing, bulldozing, burning, and more bombing. Gaza was a beautiful place. I've been working in Gaza for the last 25 years. I consider it my second home. And it's really such a grief to see how the Israeli army has been allowed to completely demolish this site of heritage for all of us. Because the 3 cities, Saida, Tyrus, and Gaza City, have been key points of human development. They are thousands of years old, these 3 cities. And they were lying at the crossroad between Asia, Europe, Arabia, and Africa. Should have been protected. Now completely demolished with the support of the United States. This is one of my heroes. This is Dr. Youssef Aborish. I don't know if you know about him, but he happens to be the Minister of Health in Gaza. He's been that for 12 years. He's a pediatrician. He's young. He's a fantastic leader. I have my respect for him is bottomless. He's married. He has 5 children. And he has been standing on call for 4 months now, night and day, to lead his healthcare sector and his team to make the best out of the situation for the people. And I've been talking with him all the time, regularly. I have not been allowed to go into Gaza this time, as you may know. And he said, Dr. Mats, it's not the bombs that are the most important killing now. It is the triangle of death: starvation, dehydration, lack of water, and diseases. 2.2 million people, they have stroke, they have myocardial infarction, they have cancer, they have diabetes, they have mental disorders. None of these disorders can be treated, diagnosed, and followed up because the Israeli army has completely demolished also the primary healthcare sector, not only the hospitals. And when we talk about the weather conditions and the lack of shelter and the rain and the wind, we'll come back to that. The people who are already suffering from malnutrition and dehydration are now also being cooled down in the most merciless way because they do not have shelter. And the diseases, as I said, diabetes, cancer, mental disorders, pregnancies, newborn, lactating women, and so on. Let me talk a little bit about what I have named medical apartheid. The Deputy Minister of Health in Gaza said in a meeting I participated in 2017, he said, the most important health issue in Palestine is the occupation. I totally agree. I think it's a very precise formulation. And I'm not going to take you through too much statistics, but this is a WHO statistics from 2 years ago. It's very fresh, and it shows you in the right-hand column, this one is Palestine, and these ones are the numbers from Israel. So this is West Bank and Gaza, and you see the numbers, and you see how long can you expect to live, how many kids die per 1,000, how many under 5 will die per 1,000, and how many women having given birth will die within the first, i.e. maternal mortality, isn't that the first month, I think? And look at the numbers. For Palestine, the life expectancy is 9 years shorter than in Israel. And the border is here. So you're on the Israeli side, I am on the Palestinian side. My heart, my vessels, my immune system, my brain is just the same as yours. My biology is not different across where the siege or the border, there are no borders, but the fence is. Infant mortality 4 times higher in occupied Palestine, under 5, 3.5 times, and maternal mortality 9 times higher in occupied Palestine before this last attack. What is this? These are mathematical expressions of medical apartheid. And all the world leaders, they have known these numbers for decades without doing anything to stop this systematic oppression of the Palestinian people in the medical sector. So these kids, and by the way, the pictures are mine. I have taken them. If there is not a photo credit, then I've been allowed to show them. These kids in Gaza, they will have to expect to live 9 years shorter than the kids on the other side of the fence in Israel. Now, if your child lived in a society where you knew the reasons why that kid would have 9 years shorter life, I guess you would have started to do something about it. And we had the responsibility to do something about these living conditions in occupied Palestine. That's why we're here today. And just a little sidekick to the cancer situation in Gaza. I've been working on that for the last 3 years together with Dr. Sobiskeik, who is the head of this, which used to be a brilliant hospital, this white one, which is given by you. This is the Turkish Friendship Hospital in mid-Gaza. And the Palestinian Minister of Health said, let's make that the central cancer hospital in Gaza. Because before, all the cancer patients were scattered around in many different hospitals. So they decided to centralize, and Dr. Sobiskeik became the medical director. And we were about, this November, to start digging to build the first radiation therapy unit in Gaza, because they have not been allowed by the occupiers to have radiation therapy. Then, in October, this is one of the hospitals that the Israeli occupation army bombed. I talked to Dr. Sobeskek that day. They came in the morning with the tanks and they started shooting shells into the 4th floor anesthesia department and the office part. They had to evacuate, I think it was 74 cancer patients and some patients from Shifa who had been evacuated here, and they basically destroyed the hospital. So from that day, in mid-October, none of the cancer patients in Gaza could have their cytostatics, their surgical treatment, and their follow-up for their cancer. And I wonder what your government, what the Turkish government is going to do about it. Are they going to rebuild it? I think the Turkish Friendship Hospital should absolutely be rebuilt. On the left-hand side, you see the Rantisi ward, which is for child cancer patients, built also in solidarity with the American NGO PCRF. That was also bombed and destroyed. So all the cancer treatment facilities in Gaza were destroyed without the Israeli army having any claims that the Turkish Friendship Hospitals had any military function or any bunker or any tunnel. They just destroyed it, as they did with all the other hospitals. So cancer patients in Gaza, they have a risk of dying from cancer, which is much higher than in my country and in your country, because of the lack of radiation therapy. You know radiation therapy? A woman in Gaza with breast cancer, she will have a 5-year survival probability of around 60%. In my country, any woman with breast cancer will have 97 to 98% 5-year survival probability. Basically, you survive. But because of the lack of radiation in Gaza, women in Gaza have much less chance to survive their cancer. And this statistics from the WHO shows that 60% of the companions who should follow patients to treatment in the West Bank or outside Gaza were denied or delayed to leave through Erez, and 37% of the patients were denied the permission to leave. And in that group, the chance of dying from your cancer was significantly 1.6 times higher than in the group who was allowed. So these are all aspects of medical apartheid. We know the numbers, we know the consequences for the people, and the politicians, in particular in the Western government and in the US, have done nothing to try to stop it. And there has been brutal bombing of Gaza all the time, from the time that the election in 2006, you remember that, a democratic election, and the party which belongs to Hamas won a landslide victory, and they formed a unity government, which was quickly shut down by the US and Israel. And then from 2006-07, there has been siege of Gaza and bombing, 2006, 9, 12, 14, 21, and now. I've been there through all these bombings, except for the last 2 ones. This is not a massive bombing. This was just an attack. We're working in the operating room in Shifa. And mind you, I want to underline that the people doing the medical work in Gaza are not the white NGO people coming for a week or 2 or 3. It is the Palestinian healthcare people. I tried to assist here. We had to amputate. This was a young boy who had been hit by a drone. And I had the job to help with the anesthesia and to carefully take the amputated limb and put it on a piece of cloth so the family could get it and bury the leg. And I can tell you that to lift the warm leg of a young person and put it on the floor and know that that young boy, I think he was 18, will be amputated for the rest of his life. It makes a deep impression on you. Now, during these 4 months, 10 children on an average in Gaza have been amputated every day. They will have a long term to try to recover. And we have done science on this. We have published quite a bit of papers because we wanted to find out what happens with those who are amputated by the drones. One thing we found out, that an amputated patient in Gaza, amputated by the drone or a bomb, they will need on an average 10 operations before they are done with the surgery. So with the thousands of new amputees, you can imagine how many operations we must be able to do and how much rehabilitation services are needed. So again, these are the heroes. This is Dr. Sara Al-Saka, and to all you girls in the audience, this is the first specialist in general surgery in Palestine. First female specialist in surgery, and she got her specialty papers just before the attack on the 7th of October. So give her a big hand, Dr. Sara Al-Saka. She is a real Habibti, and you can follow her on Instagram. She's very brave. This is Dr. Marwan Abu Sada, head of the International Committee in MOH. He's a fierce surgeon. He's been my leader during many of these attacks. This is 2014. He's the one who stands in the door and gets 400 patients through the night and says right, left, up, down, and do the triage, the sorting of the patients. This is Dr. Sobiskei, who I mentioned. He was at this time the head of the hospital, but now he's working with the cancer, or was working with the cancer hospital, the Turkish hospital. So make no mistake, the heroes are the Palestinians, the medical staff, the students, the volunteers, and the whole people of Gaza. And the way that they manage this situation is beyond belief, beyond belief. I'm going towards the end now. Do we have contact with London? Mafish? I just continue? Okay, go on. And I want to introduce you to a new term that I coined 5 years ago, I think, in a Lancet conference. We talk very much about evidence-based medicine, you know, okay? We want to do good evidence-based medicine. I think we need more evidence-based solidarity. Solidarity based on facts, on examinations, on studies, on controlled studies. We need to document in the sharp end the consequences of colonialism and occupation, not only in occupied Palestine, but everywhere in the world where the colonial powers are exercising their apartheid and their oppression. So we need to study what is available of research, we need to organize research, and we need to generate new knowledge. Let me just give you some numbers, because I'm a researcher, I'm a professor, I've done a lot of scientific quantitative research, yes. This little boy, I took this picture in 2014. He was waiting for surgery, and he was one of the then 3,000 injured Palestinian children. We thought 2014 was very bad. It couldn't get much worse. But that was wrong. During these 2 months, it was 17,000 injured. Now it's 60,000 injured. But look at the numbers. This is a study where they looked at more than 3,700 Palestinians and Israeli civilians killed from hostilities in and from Gaza from 2000 to 2016. So it's 16 years. So you have, to explain, here you have the number of killed Israeli men, and here are the killed Palestinian men. And this shows that for every killed Israeli, they killed 34 Palestinians. That's the ratio, okay? And then if you look at women, the ratio is for one Israeli woman killed, 47 Palestinian women killed in Gaza. And it gets worse for kids 10 to 17 years. For one Israeli child killed, the Israelis killed 238 Palestinian children. And for those under 10, for every Israeli child killed, they killed 500 Palestinian children. Again, these are mathematical expressions of a world that we do not want. We want, if there's going to be an armed conflict, we want armies to fight. We want soldiers to fight. We want the Geneva Convention to be upheld. We want rules and regulations to protect the civilians, the hospitals, the schools, the water pipelines, the children, the women. We don't want to go back to the jungle where might defines right. We want rules. We want a new world order where we can be sure that even if there is an armed conflict, they are forced to abide by the rules. And look at the same numbers for the situation now. This is from the 7th of October to the 21st of February, the other day. And this, the source here is the UN OCHA infographic from day 138. And here you see what we have of numbers. We know that there are around 1,139 Israelis killed, 29,410 Palestinians. For each Israeli killed, they have killed 26 Palestinians. 80%, I would imagine, are civilians. Children killed and missing. On the 7th of October, 33 Israeli children were killed. No Israeli child should get killed. No Turkish child, no Norwegian child, no Syrian child, no Iraqi child should get killed in armed conflicts. But nor should 12,000 Palestinian children be killed. And that's the horror of the numbers. So for each of these Israeli children killed, the Israelis have killed 364 Palestinian children. Wounded Israelis, Palestinians, 10 wounded Palestinians for each wounded Israelis. Displaced, we don't know. There are some Israelis displaced from the north of Gaza, but we know that there is about 1.7 million Palestinians who have been forcefully displaced. So we should know these numbers and facts. When we write, when we discuss, when we go to meetings and workshops, when we discuss in medical school, in nursing school, what is the reality? We should be scientific, and we should apply evidence-based solidarity. And I'll give you a few sources that are very good. These are the daily examples of the daily updates from the Minister of Health in Gaza. Mind you, even if the Israelis have bombed and destroyed the whole health information system in the Palestinian Ministry of Health, they manage to update every day in Arabic and English on the numbers, counted by hand, because they don't have electricity, they don't have computers. So this is from the report on the February 21st. It's a simple report, but it's very precise. This is an addition to the report that came the other day about the use of starvation as a weapon against the people. And they make it very clear also politically that malnutrition is one of the most dangerous things in Gaza now, and in particular for children, and the occupation insists on not delivering aid so that the health system remains collapsed. They place the political responsibility. This was yesterday, from the Minister of Health in Gaza, and they are talking about the situation in Nasser Medical Complex, where the Israeli army occupation army, has invaded the hospital after sieging it for 3 weeks and bombing it and killing patients, and I believe also staff, and arresting 8 doctors. And this is a detailed sum up of the situation in Gaza Medical Complex. And why, I ask myself, why are the mainstream media not reporting this? Why don't they interview Dr. Youssef Aburish, the Minister of Health? Why is it always a white man with blue eyes and blonde hair who's going to talk on Al Jazeera Arabic or Al Jazeera English on the situation in the healthcare sector in Gaza? I know what it is. It's colonialism. It's racism. If you're brown, if you're black, if you're dark, we don't think we can trust you. You remember how they said that, oh, the Palestinians are not counting right? The number of deaths are not right? There is a very fresh study in the Lancet showing that actually the Palestinian numbers, Minister of Health numbers, are lying below the WHO numbers. Very precise, very precise. And then there is a list here of other important sources. Of course, direct contact with people on the ground. I talk a lot with my colleagues on WhatsApp, on the phone, whenever we can, and I get reports. And then it's the Minister of Health in Gaza, Minister of Health in the West Bank. Palestine Red Crescent Society are well informed. And then it's these important UN organs, UN Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OPT, I'll come back to that. They make these reports. The WHO, UNICEF, media, good media outlets, Mondovice, MIMO, Middle East Monitor, Electronic Intifada, Al Jazeera, Visualizing Palestine. And then there is, of course, research going on and being published. So this is the update, the flash update that comes every second day. You can subscribe to it. You find it on the internet. And that comes with a very nice one-pager, which is a graphic summing up all the numbers. Looks like this. You can print it out. You can hand it out in your class, or you can study it or put it on your fridge. And this is the flash report infographics. Free of charge, very saturated with information. This is another report from WHO on how many healthcare institutions have been damaged, and this is another sum up from the WHO. And all of these reports are available. WHO makes this Right to Health report every year, and it has a special chapter on attacks on healthcare. Very, very important to know the numbers and to know the facts. And then, of course, there is research. This paper, we wrote this paper and published in British Medical Journal after the Great March of Return. And we actually asked why none of the international medical communities have been doing any action to talk about the emergency in Gaza and the human rights violations created by the Great March of Return, the attacks on the protesters. Everyone has a voice. And for the medical community and for the scientific community, we need to think a little bit outside the frame. We need to ask ourselves, how can I use my research tools, my knowledge, my insight, to produce more knowledge about colonialism, about this oppression? How can I make alliances with nursing students in Gaza, or with oncologists in the West Bank, or with epidemiologists in Gaza, and make studies and make more research available? This is from Visualizing Palestine, who has very nice infographics, and they have shown the ratio 9:1, Palestinians to Israeli killed in the period 1988 to 2023. This is and then there are all these reports coming. This report came the other day from the Global Nutrition Cluster, and it is about the starvation in Gaza, and it's a very worrisome report. I'll come back to that. And they are actually showing that there is an imminent disaster, famine, looming in Gaza, and already children are dying from hunger and man-made starvation. This one also came the other day, a UN report from the UN Human Rights Office showing that the Israeli forces are using sexual assaults and even rape against Palestinian women and Palestinian prisoners. And this is documented, unlike the Israeli claims that the Palestinian fighters are being sexually abusive against Israelis, which has never been proven. Never been proven. And I don't believe they do it, actually. But this one came, and this is about the attacks on Palestinian women. I'm finished. Let's have a look at destruction. This map to your left with the red dots are the bomb craters. The map with the blue ones is the population density in Gaza. And if you put these two on top of each other, you will see that they have been bombing systematically, pretty much exactly where people have been living. Not the tunnels, which are all over, but the living habitat. And this is the numbers from that graph that I just showed you. I'm now giving you some of these numbers from that sheet. And you see 360,000 living units, homes have been destroyed. 184 mosques, 3 churches, and 123 ambulances, and 392 schools and 11 bakeries. It's all there. It's all there for those who wants to see and to make a claim or to call in the Israeli ambassador and say, stop this or we will send you out of our country, as they did both Brazil and South Africa has done. There are more than 500,000 students in Gaza now with no schooling. They have killed almost more than 4,500 students and 240 teachers. They have systematically been killing academic leaders, poets, authors, political scientists, rectors, to take out the Palestinian leadership, the intellectuals, the epistemicide, the erasure of the Palestinian culture. Why do they bomb all the universities? They bombed every university in Gaza. Beautiful university, Al-Azhar, Islamic University, beautiful temples of knowledge and wisdom and teaching, all smoldered. And they get away with it, they think, but this time not. So this is this graph that I described to you. And behind the numbers, 29,000 killed, 69,000 injured, there are humans. And when you look at this picture, be careful not only to look at the suffering, because there is human greatness in this picture, because those 2 men who are trying, or 3 men who are trying to dig him out, they risk their lives to rescue him, because they know that the Israelis are coming back with their drones or their fighter jets and they bomb the rescuers. Still, they come to his assistance. Still, they come to his assistance. 70% of the 29,000 killed are Palestinian children and women. Did you see how they carefully shielded the baby's head and mouth and airways with their hands as they were digging to find out if the baby was breathing and to avoid getting dust and sand and debris into the mouth and nose? The baby was not breathing. It was one of the 12,000. For every loss, for every killed, there is a relative, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister who are losing and who are grieving. And that amount of grief and loss should be part of our grief and our willingness to actually process these feelings, because it is totally unbearable what is going on. But this misery, all this suffering is met with, as I try to say again and again, with Palestinian bravery, with solidarity and care in a society that managed to keep together despite this massive oppression. Now, watch as you see the video to the left, because the Israelis have just been bombing close to Nasser Hospital. And people are not running away from the bombing. They are running into the bombing. Why? To rescue some others. And to the right, you see just a journey through the landscape in northern Gaza. Ya Allah! Ya Allah! They who come running out are carrying wounded or dead ones. The others are running in to rescue. Extreme bravery. Ya Allah! Ya Allah! Ya Allah! And my friends, why are they digging with their hands? Oh, you know the answer. Because the Israelis have stopped all influx, all import of fuel. So all the cranes, all the bulldozers, all the digging machines are made useless, just like the machinery in the hospitals, the ventilators, the incubators, because there has been no electricity in Gaza main circuits since the 7th of October. The only way to get electricity in Gaza is either by solar panel or by generators, but then you need fuel. And again, on the West Bank, massive attacks, 124 Palestinian children killed last year in the West Bank. And the last 3 months of the last year has been the most violent and deadly in the West Bank. I don't have time to talk about that, but let's not forget about the West Bank. And as I said from this report that came now a few days ago, 90% of the children in Gaza now have one or more infectious diseases, most of it gastrointestinal, which means they have diarrhea and vomit, which means they lose water, which means the mother and the father cannot give them a little bottle of clean water to drink. They have to feed that child some kind of unclean water, which will make more diarrhea. And if you combine that with malnutrition and hypothermia, that child is at risk of dying. 70% are diarrhea. And on average, households surveyed, they had access to less than 1 liter of safe water per day. The average need, we doctors know, for a person is 3 liters at minimum per day for consumption and for personal hygiene. Less than 1 liter in Gaza. So the man-made starvation, I go on until half, right? Tamam? Yeah. What does this starvation mean for the individual? I want you to meet Dima, and she's also the face of the Sumud in Gaza, the steadfastness, the strength, the bravery, and the dignity. Look at Dima, how she looks at the interviewer, the person she talks to, and how bravely she's trying to quell her, to control her crying when she's answering the questions. Please have a good sound.
مرحبا الحمد لله. عارفيني عن حضرتك؟ اسمي ديما حنيدي. كم عمرك؟ 11 سنة. قولي لي ديما شو بتعملي هون؟ بعبي مي. ليش من مستشفى ناصر تحديدا انت جيت تعبي مي؟ عشان فيش عنا مي، بضطر اجي هون. شو بالنسبة للأكل؟ أكل فيش عنا أكل. الوضع صعب. شو اسمه؟ واحنا محتاجين اكل. شو كمان؟ وين بابا وين ماما؟ بابا ايش قبل الحرب توفى وامي هي عايشة. يعني امي مش قادرة ايش تجيبنا اكل، توفير الاكل، ومش قاعدين ومعناش غاز وعلى النار، طبيخ على النار. نجي نشرب مية، نجي نعبي مية بالقلال، ومش عارفين ايش نجيب اكل، وامي مش عارفة ما احناش مصاري ومحتاجين. من وين انت ديما؟ من خينونس. الحرب شو اثرت عليك؟ ما رحتش على المدرسة، بطلنا نلعب مع صحباتنا، بطلنا نقرا، والحرب اثرت علينا، مش عارفين ايش بدنا نعمل في حالنا. طيب شو بتحبي توجهي رسالة للعالم كله؟ ينهوا الحرب، ما يصيرش ضد الحرب، بدي وقفة اطلاق النار والحرب تخلص.
For the war to stop. For the war to stop. Ceasefire now. Shouldn't the world soon allow the 1.1 million children in Gaza to have some sort of peace? What is wrong with this world? Allowing Israel to go on with this starvation, killing, maiming, scaring, freezing people to death for 4 months? Are we back in the medieval times? Are we back in the jungle? We have to take a stand, every one of us, because this is, as I said, not only a Palestinian case. And these malnutrition situations will affect the children for the rest of their lives. Growth, cognitive development, physical health, cardiovascular disease. We know what famine does to young people in the long run. It's all known. So again, starvation, dehydration, and diseases is affecting the young kids, and hypothermia, cooling down. And here you have the list of diseases that, according to Dr. Youssef Aburish, my respected Minister of Health in Gaza, are the cluster of conditions now killing people in Gaza. And it is winter in Gaza. It's cold. I've been to Gaza many winters. It's very cold. It's very wet. It's very muddy. And this is the weather forecast for Rafah for the coming days. And you may not see it, but it's down to 9 centigrades at night with 4 to 5 meters per second wind and precipitation. I know what this means. I come from the Arctic. I come from northern Norway, from the cold. For us, hypothermia is a death sentence in the wintertime. These kids don't have woolen clothes. They have synthetic clothes. They don't have proper shelter. The tents are summer size with very thin layers for the walls and the roof. They often rupture. And look at him. He's cold, he's hungry, he's insecure, and it's our responsibility. So to finish, I want to say 2 words about Israeli sadism. Because you don't have to be a sadist to have an armed conflict. You can actually shoot the other soldiers. But what the Israelis are doing is that they are perpetrating what I consider an active politics of elimination and genocide. Normally, Gaza needs 500 trucks per day to sustain a minimum level of life, and that has been the situation for the 16 years of siege. 500 trucks per day. There is no discussion about that. This is the graph showing the number of trucks entering Gaza during these 12 or 16 weeks. This is the line showing 200 trucks per day. And you can see that is very much less. It's maybe 1/10 or 1/20 or 20% of the needed volume that is entering Gaza. And you see here for the last days now, the 18th of February, it was 38 trucks, then it was 4 trucks, 9 trucks, 7 trucks. This is strangulation. They don't have flour, they don't have sugar, they don't have water, they don't have fuel, and Israel is controlling every truck. And they go through every box. And they take out from the trucks what they define as dual use, which is something that can be used for military or civilian purpose. This could be dual use. The soldiers need water. Oh, this will go for the soldiers. Dual use. Don't let the people have water. You know what they take out? All the anesthetic drugs. You know what they take out? All the surgical instruments used for external fixation to fix all the fractures, open fractures. This is sadism. It has nothing to do with military tactics. Nothing. And the verdict, or the first decision of the International Criminal Court, ICJ, International Court of Justice, they said that Israel must ensure that the delivery of basic services and essential humanitarian aid comes to the civilians in Gaza. They haven't done anything about it since the 26th of January. And they've not been forced by the US to comply with the court, nor have they stopped the killing. And look at this satellite photo. These are trucks with relief being stopped at the gates of Rafah. It's all there. The international community is flooding in, flying into El Arish airport, trailer and trailer and trailer and trailer with supplies. Not allowed in. Strangulation, killing, starving, making people die from infections that they could be saved from, and from complications from the injuries that they could have been saved from. And Edward Said, you know, the famous Palestinian writer, he said in 2003, he said, in fact, I cannot think of any other country on earth that in full view of the television audiences has performed such miracles of detailed sadism against an entire society and gotten away with it, unquote. He can think of no other nation having been allowed to be so sadistic in such a great detail as the Israeli government and the Israeli forces and Israeli politics. That's why I call it sadism too. And on the 5th of February, they even started shooting on the trucks that were allowed through Rafah or Khmer Shalom. So let me jump. I will not talk much about the attacks on healthcare. Just show you this picture I took in 2008. That's an ambulance, a Red Crescent ambulance, being shot to pieces. And my friend, the paramedic, looking out at the window. And the little video to your right is from this year. Another ambulance being shot to pieces. Another paramedic being injured. Fully uniformed ambulance under protection of international law. And you saw the number of killed and wounded. And the same window pane with the Red Crescent insignia, which should guarantee protection, has been shot to pieces again. At least 340 doctors, nurses, paramedics have been killed, 900 injured, and more than 100 are in the Israeli concentration camps in the Negev desert. And those who have been released have been heavily tortured, like my good friend and brother, Dr. Mohammed Al-Ron, who actually did part of his specialization in my university hospital in Norway. He was kept for 2 months and he was beaten almost to death. Doctors. The only weapon these doctors have, it's this. It's a stethoscope. It's their knowledge. It's their good heart. And the Israelis are killing them by the hundreds, arresting them and destroying the healthcare system. Beating them up, trying to completely strangulate the healthcare system. And the healthcare workers are extremely brave, as we have said. We salute them. They have never been giving up. This is in Shifa in November. They always find solutions, and they have been standing by their patients. And there are many local organizations that we don't hear much about. This is the Palestinian Medical Relief Society, which is providing local primary healthcare teams, both in the West Bank and in Gaza. Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who will come to one of the panels, a brilliant example of a brave Palestinian man who is very articulate politically and who also organizes healthcare for his people. Give him a big hand. These are the people that really are showing up for their people and doing concrete solidarity work for their people. Thank you. To end, I do not practice humanitarian work. I practice what I call solidarity medicine. And I will define that for you. I am not the boss. I'm not coming into a Palestinian team here and say, you are going to do it the way I do it in Norway. My job is to find my place in their system, under their leadership, under Palestinian leadership. So solidarity medicine is to choose side with the oppressed, not to be neutral. You know, Desmond Tutu, from South Africa, he said, if you take a neutral position in a situation of oppression, you are on the side of the oppressor. There is no neutral position. So I choose side. I go when they ask, when they need, when they want me. I don't go just because I think they need. I do clinical work led by them. I do documentation, research, and publish as much as possible scientifically. And I bring the experiences home to my healthcare because I learned so much from the Palestinians. And I'll skip this one. This picture is very painful. This is when the Israelis entered into Nasser medical complex the other day. And what you see here, it's a big man and it's a small man. It's a man, big, proud, strong Palestinian with nothing to protect him but his thin green operation suit. The Israeli with arms, with protective gears, and with the whole occupation army. Cowards. And I'll skip this one. And then I will end by paying tribute to one of the many killed healthcare workers. This is a graph, a poster with some of the 374 killed Palestinian healthcare workers in Gaza, but they are humans and not numbers. Maysara was one of them. He was one of my most clever medical students in Gaza. He took his boards, or he's finished his medical school. I believe it's 4 years ago. And he participated. He was the head of IFMSA, which is the International Federation of Medical Students Associations. His parents lived in Gaza City, in Rimal, and we organized a number of teaching projects together. We went to lay people and trained them, CPR and how to stop bleeding, and we had an incredibly good output. This is Maysara teaching his local fellow Palestinians in Gaza, in the camps, in the schools, in the labor unions, wherever they needed medical knowledge. So here we are together with the female medical students and Anas Ismail and Maysara. We also worked on research, and we published together in the Lancet. And one evening in November, he went home to his parents, father and mother, and his 2 sisters, who, one of them had 3 kids. They went to sleep, and the Israelis came, and they bombed the house and killed all of them who were inside. His 2 remaining brothers were out looking for food when the bombing took place. They came back and started to dig, of course, to try to find if somebody could be alive under the rubble. So I wrote this little text to commemorate him on the 6th of November. He was killed. And as I said, his only weapon was his stethoscope. He did his master's in UK. He came back to Gaza to specialize as a pediatrician. He wanted to serve his people, and they killed him. They killed him and his whole family in cold blood. The 2 brothers, they came back and started digging feverishly in the rubble. And the next morning, I got this message from Dr. Anas, our close companion, that Israelis had come back with a drone and killed the 2 brothers who were digging in the rubble. And this movie, I'll finish with this little video showing how the neighbors and some rescue people are coming to look for the brothers. This is just after the second bombing.
يا الله يا الله حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. ايش هذا؟ استهداف ولا ايش؟ يلا يا الله هات سيارات هات سيارات الشباب اللي بتشتغل يا الله يا الله اصبر جيب سيارة في معك سيارات؟
This is one surviving neighbor who was helping to dig.
بشويش خدني استهدفوكم بشكل مباشر حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل لحق اهله لحق اهله هو الوحيد ضايل اهله والله هو الوحيد ضايل اهله هو الرئيس صح؟ الوحيد ضايل اهله في الشيالات هي راح يجيب حاضر يا الله يا الله والله لحق اهله وهم الوحيدين ضايلين اهلهم اقسم بالله لحق اهلهم حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
My friends, we shall never forget these martyrs. We shall never yield to oppression and racism and colonialism. We will stand tall with the Palestinian people, because maybe in 15 years or in 20 years, you or we will need the solidarity that the world can show the Palestinians now. Our demands are simple. we will rebuild Gaza, but first we demand ceasefire, lift the siege, open Palestinian healthcare, open the borders, protect the children, and stop the occupation of Palestine. Kuluna Gaza, Thawra Thawra Hatta Nasser, Gaza Hatta Nasser. Shukran jazilan. Thank you.
Inspiring presentation. Thank you. Evet, kıymetli konuşmacımıza ve moderasyonu için Ahmet hocamıza çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Değerli konuklarımız, kıymetli katılımcılar, sempozyumun açılış töreni sona ermiştir. Katılımlarınız için teşekkür ederiz. Sempozyum öğle arası ve cuma namazının ardından 14.30'daki ilk panelle devam edecek. Yalnız 3 önemli duyurum var. Birincisi, lütfen eşyalarınızı yanınızda alınız. Çünkü salonun düzeni değişecek. O yüzden eşyalarınızı yanınıza almanız büyük bir önem taşıyor. Aynı zamanda cuma namazı alt kattaki mescitte kılınacak ve öğle yemeği de hemen kapının arkasındaki holde ikram edilecektir. 14.30'da görüşmek dileğiyle teşekkür ederiz.
Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Och vi har odlat jorden. Och vi har odlat jorden. Och vi har skördat vetet. Och vi har skördat vetet. Vi har plockat citronerna. Och vi har plockat citronerna. Och pressat oliverna. Och pressat oliverna. Och hela världen känner till vår jord. Och hela världen känner till vår jord. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Och vi har kastat stenar på. Och vi har kastat stenar på. Soldater och poliser. Soldater och poliser. Och vi har skjutit raketer. Och vi har skjutit raketer. Mot våra fiender. Mot våra fiender. Och hela världen känner till vår kamp. Och hela världen känner till vår kamp. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Och vi ska befria vårt land. Och vi ska befria vårt land. Från imperialismen. Från imperialismen. Och vi ska bygga upp vårt land. Och vi ska bygga upp vårt land. Till socialismen. Till socialismen. Och hela världen kommer att bevittna. Och hela världen kommer att bevittna. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa vi har kastat flera tåg. Soldater och poliser. Soldater och poliser. Och vi har skjutit raketer. Och vi har skjutit raketer.